Hunters, welcome back to another Flush 'em and Dust 'em podcast. Tonight we have Jake Thomas on. He is a falconer. He's actually in his first, or last year was kind of his first year, so he's getting started in it, learning, growing. So we're excited to have him on. Obviously, you can see if you're watching on the video, he has his bird with him inside. Super cool to see. But Jake, if you want to introduce yourself, and we'll take it from there.
I'm Jake Thomas. Grew up hunting, running German short hairs, running all over the country, chasing birds. And like I said, I've been around falconry for a long time, just kind of dove in this last year, and man, it's so much fun. It's wild. But
yeah. Where are you based out of?
So I'm out of El Dorado, Kansas, which if you know where Wichita is, it's about 30 minutes east of there. I'm kind of right on the edge of the Flint Hills is where I'm at, on the western edge of the Flint Hills.
Nice. So before we were online talking, you were saying that where you're located, they have a kind of a get together for falconry or something of that nature that you've been around for a while. Can you kind of explain that and dive into some details?
Yeah. So they have it's an AFC meet, which is just a falconry organization. A bunch of falconers get together. They come down here and fly chickens right around my neighborhood. And, you know, chickens are kind of the crown jewel in falconry. I think Tyler Sladen talked about that on here maybe. And anyway, they would all get together and hawk chickens here. And these guys I grew up on a ranch outside of El Dorado, Kansas. And we have some chickens around and stuff like that. These guys see them on our field right off some blacktop, the field that we rented. And they pull up to the house, these two dudes in this white van, and they knock on the door and say, "Hey, we would really like to hunt these chickens." I was like, "Well, I hunt chicken. You know, I'm a 10 or 11-year-old kid." Yeah. I let them know. I was like, "Hey, chicken season's been over for a while because, falconry season is an extended season. It goes until March 31st for the upland season here. And, This is the early March when these guys are coming up and knocking on the door." So I let them know, chicken season's over and this and that. They said, "Well, we're trying to catch them with falcons." And, me as a kid who was enthralled with outdoors, always been interested in birds of prey and wildlife and everything. I was hooked immediately. I asked these guys what they were talking about. They showed me a falcon and they're like, "Well, yeah, we catch them with these." And I was like, "This can't even be real," And we didn't even have internet, so it's not like I could watch YouTube videos or anything like that. Anyway, we go out, put the guy's falcon up. The way falcons hunt, they go up, ideally about 1,200 feet. And you put them up over some game or a pointing dog, or over like a cattle pond, or if you're hunting ducks, or a pointing dog if you're hunting chickens or pheasants. And ideally, your bird's going to mount up in the air. Let's just say 1,000 feet, and they're going to come right down right down on the game, and on that what you call a stoop. And anyway, we mounted the bird up, and the chickens took off. The guy's bird took off after some crows. It was just a real ordeal, and they ended up getting another bird out, and they'd been training. There's no chickens left or anything like that. They were already in the next county, and they threw a hen pheasant and just the bird came down and pillowcased it, and that was it for me.
That's crazy.
It was wild. It sounded like it was like a dull thud. From like 200 yards away, you could hear that falcon slap a pheasant. It was wild.
That's nuts.
Me kind of growing up on a ranch and knowing everybody and working for everybody, I was kind of just stuck with those guys since, in a good way. And,
no kidding.
Run around, get permission. I'd go fly cattle ponds with them on ducks mostly, and the guys that were there to hunt chickens, we'd go hunt chickens. It was just a blast, and I've been involved around it for a long time. And the guy that actually came up and knocked on my door he was living in Illinois at the time, moved to Kansas just to specifically target chickens and with his falcons. And now he's actually who my sponsor is. And your sponsors, who takes you through the process of falconry.
Okay.
So yeah, it kind of mentors you throughout the whole thing. That's kind of their position legally and everything like that. So
yeah, what is that legal process to be a sponsor? Do you know? Do they have to pass some sort of test, or is it?
So a sponsor would be someone who's gosh, I can't talk. who's just a licensed falconer that's out of their apprenticeship. They can take you on it. So there's an apprenticeship, your regular falconer, and then a master falconer. This guy had been doing it forever, so he was a master falconer, which essentially just means he was doing it for at least 7 years.
Okay.
But anyway, no, he could take me on as a mentor and kind of work with the process of falconry and managing bird weight, good animal husbandry, and maybe helping you find hunting spots, stuff like that. But he'd already been through all the tests, been doing it forever. Whenever you start your apprenticeship, you have to go through. It's just a written test. It's actually fairly easy. It's designed for, you can legally start doing falconry. I believe in Kansas, I think you can be 14 years old. So it's designed for 14-year-olds to pass. So I barely passed it.
At what are you, like 22?
28, man.
28. Barely passed it. That's all right.
That's exactly right. But no, you pass the test, you get to go out with your sponsor, you trap your own bird. And then you go through that for 2 years. You can either fly that bird for your first year, let it go, or you can do what I'm doing, which is called intermewing a bird, which means you're going to keep it through its molting process. So I flew this red-tailed hawk right here. Her name's Bird Reynolds.
That's an awesome name.
Thanks, man. We ended up catching a few bunnies and had a really good time. I wish I would have kind of got started a little earlier with her. It took me a while to actually trap a bird. It's not as easy as you think. It is for some folks. Just nothing ever worked out for me.
Yeah. How'd the trapping? Can you explain the trapping? How you trapped her?
It's pretty simple. It's called a BC trap. It stands for Balchardi. It's basically, it's kind of like almost like a little rat cage, and you just take. I use like 40-pound test fishing line, and you tie the same knot that's like a Hondo knot for like a lasso, and it's just, you put a bunch of loops, 200-300 loops on the top of it. And we actually tried for a long, my falconry sponsor is kind of a falcon guy, he'd trap prairie falcons and stuff, and he'd use starlings, like little European starlings, little blackbirds. And, I don't know, the red tails just didn't seem to care for it too much. I ended up getting my hands on a couple of rats. I have a buddy that raises snake food. So yeah. And so whenever you're trapping your bird, you have to trap a bird of the year, which means, a bird that was hatched that spring. So the way to tell with red tails is, the most simple way to tell with red tails is their tail's not red, right? So they're brown, they're solid brown. And then after their first molting year, which I'll show you guys in a bit, they'll have red tail feathers coming in. You can see my bird's losing feathers right now and regrowing her adult feathers. And she has some just crimson red tail feathers coming in. They're about 2 inches long right now. So she's growing them in now. But it's kind of, you got to look at a lot of hawks to find the right one. Some days we were trying to trap for, like 2 weekends, and it just, we would look at 200 hawks, and we were having a ton of trouble finding what you call a passage bird.
What's the difference between a passage bird and just a normal red-tailed hawk?
Okay, so there's a passage and what you call a haggard, and that's just falconry terminology for passage being a bird of the year, and a haggard being a bird that's at least a year old, already has that solid red tail, and you can't legally take those. So, yeah, that's, you got to find that brown bird. And anyway, we ended up finding one. I had a rat in the trap, and man, I didn't. I dropped the trap under this bird. It was actually in the place that I work at. I seen her fly across the road. We were just kind of tootling around on some back roads, and I see this hawk fly across the road, lights up on a telephone pole right on the edge of town, right across from the lot that I work at. And we get back behind her, see her tail's brown. We're like, oh heck yeah, this is good to go. We go out in the parking lot where I work and drop the trap, and we get turned around in the parking lot. I'm like, oh man, that bird flew off the pole, because it happened to us a couple times. The bird just flew off, and we were trying to trap, and we turn around, and my sponsor goes, she's on the trap. And so we're all out in the truck, this bird here is just sitting on the trap, flapping her wings, get up there and safely secure, get a coat over and get her cut free, and get a hood on her and stuff like that. And once you do that, they're real docile, they can't see what they're doing. It was a cool experience. I'd never been a part of that. So it was awesome.
That is awesome. So after you got Burt Reynolds in the trap, did you already have the name picked out before you caught her?
No, not really. My fiance wanted to call her Muffins or something. We settled on Bird Reynolds real quick.
Yeah, that's awesome. So after you caught her, got her secured and everything, what's your process of introducing her to, I'm guessing her cage? I can't remember exactly what the name of it is.
Oh, so
And that process.
yeah, so it's called a Muse and MEWS Muse, and I actually started my bird. Excuse me. I started working with her just in my garage. I
Yeah.
had a Muse set up, and it was just real simple for me to just walk out to the shop and work with her. That's kind of, it might be frowned upon by some folks, but it worked great for me. And I don't have anything in there for her to hurt herself on anyway. She's tethered to basically to her perch, and she can't really fly anywhere. She's just kind of hanging out throughout the day. And I would just go in and work with her in the morning, work with her in the evening. And, it does take some time, they kind of start, it's a trust building thing. They kind of, you put them on your glove, you get them to start eating off your glove. Then pretty soon you get them to take a couple of steps to your glove. And then the next thing you know, they're jumping to your glove. The next thing you know, they're flying to your glove. This is a couple of week process. And then, after that, I actually got COVID. So I had so much time on my hands for 2 weeks. It worked. It couldn't have worked out better, actually. And I ended up, I had her out flying and stuff like that very, very soon. So it was a lot of fun going through that process. My only regret is I wish I would have got her started got her caught a little quicker in the year, and got going a little faster so I could hunt her more.
So what time of year did you catch her?
Gosh, I want to say it was like, I'm not exactly sure on the date. It was in November.
Oh, really?
Yeah, late November, something like that. I think that's right. It was later. A lot of people end up trapping their birds in a little earlier than that, in October, maybe. I'm not real sure. But we were trying to trap in October and stuff. And just like I said, had a little difficulty, couldn't get with my sponsor a lot. And you kind of got to have them there to trap a bird, especially when you've never handled, a totally wild one before.
Yeah. How long after you trap the bird are you able to take it hunting? Obviously, it depends on training, but what's the typical time frame before you feel comfortable enough?
So me being an apprentice and not really, knowing what I was doing, understanding weight management, understanding the social cues of the bird, just kind of going through just trials and tribulations of figuring it out. Now I could probably do it in, 5 or 6 weeks. I could have my bird ready to hunt.
Oh, really?
And stuff like that. But, it took me a long time, 2.5 months. My sponsor runs his own business, so he was limited on the times he could come help me. I was really thankful I had another local falconer to come and help me a little bit when he couldn't and stuff like that, and just kind of get the ball rolling for me. And it all worked out great. We had a great, I got a hunter really about 5 or 6 weeks towards the end of our season and stuff like that. And we just had a ball once I got her going. It was so much fun.
What species did you hunt her on this past year?
So she's just a red-tailed hawk. So, I'm not flying her on quail or anything like that. They'll catch quail if they stay on the ground, or a pheasant, they might ground pound one. But 99% she's, rabbits and squirrels. I didn't actually end up catching a squirrel. I never, in Kansas, you don't go too far out of your way to hunt squirrels, or at least I never have. And, so I didn't really understand what qualified as really good squirrel cover, but I knew what good rabbit cover was. And just, I didn't want to experiment too much. I kind of wanted to get out and just hunt my birds, since I was already on a kind of a time restraint, towards the end of the season. Yep. And legally I think I could have even took rabbits after our falconry season, because it's a year-round harvest here in Kansas. But I wasn't ready to do that, and our turkey season was opening up. I'm a big turkey hunter, so I don't want to ruin
that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I got to hear them gobblers, man. So, we got out and just pretty much chased rabbits. She actually ended up hitting a rooster pheasant, which was crazy. And I was so excited. I was jumping up and down. I thought she just pounded the thing, but ended up getting away from her. And, we had a lot of fun, man. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Do you, so when you're out hunting, is there any commands that you give her, like a whistle so she knows you're way over here? Because she's perched up, obviously, like you said, 1,200 feet. Is that what it was?
Oh no, so those That's like when you're hunting ducks with a falcon. So
Okay.
essentially a red tail, or at least my red tail. Some guys can soar them, and if they do, it's a really low soar, so it's like 100 feet or 200 feet.
Okay.
And maybe I'm wrong about that. I've never done that. So, but I know some guys that definitely have. But no, like essentially, like if you think about walking down a hedgerow, my bird is either going to stay like 1 or 2 trees ahead of me, behind me, or right next to me is the idea. Or, she may cruise around a little bit and go to a tree that she thinks is good hunting too, because they know what good cover looks like.
Yeah.
Also, man, I caught quite a handful of my rabbits. I caught just kind of following her. It was pretty unique. But no, essentially she's just kind of going to follow me through the trees, or I'm going to follow her,
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. After the first couple of hunts, I got my dog involved, and it became a lot of fun.
Yeah. Did they hunt pretty well together?
Oh, absolutely. I have some older dogs, 2 older dogs. I only ended up hunting one of them with her because one of them was recovering from a torn muscle in chicken season. And anyway, he's just a dead broke gun dog. I probably wouldn't introduce a puppy to her, but and I never had one. I only had one little issue, and it wasn't even real bad about the little dog bird entanglement type deal. It's just a dog got too close, and it never did happen again. I can guarantee it. So, and it, like I said, it wasn't that bad. Any dog that understands social cues from other dogs, it doesn't take a lot for them to figure out that they don't want to be that close to that hawk, because they posture up. They know that they're a threat. That they could hurt them. So any dog with a little bit between the ears, it doesn't take a lot for them to figure out that, hey, I don't need to be close to this thing.
Yep, for sure. How does your hawk dispatch the bird or the game? Does the hawk do that, or do you do that?
No, so I mean, in time, the hawk would, but no, I get up there just as quick as I can and humanely dispatch the rabbit, because it sounds like a lot of times if you're, my bird will hit them hard enough that kills them dead on impact, and which is pretty gnarly. But no, a lot of times it's a snatch and grab, and you just get up there. It sounds like somebody turned a coyote call on real loud. So,
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I bet. That's crazy.
The coyote calls are really accurate to what they sound like.
Really? That is awesome. That would be nuts to see. How fast do you think your bird's flying when it's coming down towards its prey? Do you have any idea?
Oh, so she isn't going to go real fast or anything like that. She's a red tail. It just kind of depends on, just how high she is when she's going after something. If she's coming off a telephone pole, she's going better than terminal velocity, come down and hit something. She's very, compared to like the bird that Tyler Sladen flies, she's quite a bit larger than his bird Hash Brown was. She's right. Her hunting weight was right at 3.5 pounds, Okay. Most people weigh their birds in grams. I never really got into the grams thing. My sponsor ended up giving me, hold on, let me go set this thing down.
No worries.
My apologies. She's kind of been in her mew and hasn't heard my mouth running very much lately. So she didn't really like that talking too close to her. Yeah, she was getting a little antsy there. But anyway, no, so she's about 3.5 pounds. Her hunting weight was like 42 ounces, 42 to 43 ounces was really where she really kind of found her stride and had a lot of power, and she was just a powerhouse.
Yeah, that'd be awesome just seeing crunch them on the ground.
Oh man, it is. And the trouble with rabbits is, a lot of times, unless you're kind of hunting like more open woodlot or something like that, the good rabbit cover, you don't actually get to see it a lot.
Oh yeah.
Knee-high, real thick grass, briars, brush, cedar trees, whatever. You definitely get to see it sometimes. And I actually ended up catching quite a few bunnies right off a point. All my dogs are, they're just kind of some trashy meat dogs, so they do point bunnies because I do like to eat them even before I got into falconry. So I'd take some bunnies over them and stuff like that. So it was an extremely easy transition for my dogs. And we ended up, like I said, taking a few over points, and it was the dog would go on point and just, oh man, it was a great chase.
And then the bird would just
right in your face. It is wonderful. It is the biggest adrenaline rush I've had, for a long time. So
that would be super cool.
It was cool, man.
How long do you plan? so your bird is currently in the molting process, right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
How long after molting do you plan on keeping her around?
So my plan is to fly her throughout my whole apprenticeship, which is 2 falconry seasons. And
Okay.
I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna keep her through her molt all summer, and I'll be flying her this fall. So yeah, she's gonna go
Nice.
through her molt, hopefully be done in like October-ish, and about that first frost, and we're gonna get after it.
Nice. And then, so would next year be considered your second season, or would you start this as your first season just since you started late? It'd be
So
second.
next year will be my first season.
Yeah.
Or
Okay.
I'm sorry, but next year will be my second season.
Yeah.
What am I talking about?
Nice. That's pretty cool. And then, so what made you land on the red tail hawk over other hawks, I guess?
Okay, so when you're going through your apprenticeship in Kansas, you can either have a red-tailed hawk, a red-shouldered hawk, or an American kestrel. Red shoulders, they're not. They look pretty similar to a red tail, actually. The red tails are just super plentiful. American kestrels they're little bitty sparrowhawks. So they're, oh gosh, somebody's gonna grill me for getting this wrong. You know, they're not much bigger than a turtle dove. You know, or maybe
Yep.
you know they're not big. And the reason 90% of apprentices go with a red tail is because if you're a little bit off weight wise on a red tail, it's not a real big deal. They're a big hardy bird. You know, if you get your kestrel a little too low and weight wise and stuff like that, you know, it could be a bad deal. They could get sick, but there's just a ton of red tails. So that's kind of what they go. You know, that's what most people go with, and they're really manable hawks. They're great, you know, just all around hawks, you know.
Yeah, for sure. What's your plan for after a red tail once you're done with your apprenticeship? Do you have an idea of what you'd be looking for or want to get
Absolutely.
into?
I would really like to have just a big old female goshawk is kind of what I'm leaning towards. Big enough, like, so since you've talked with Tyler, he's kind of my buddy. He has a male goshawk, and you know, he kind of catches quail and a bunch of cottontails, stuff like that. Ideally, you know, I don't know how many ducks he's caught with his bird, but you know, I have just a ton of small little cattle ponds, which are very ideal for goshawks. Little drainage ditches. You know, in falconry, you kind of fly what quarry you have. You know, we have pheasants, quail, chickens. Kansas is a good place for falconry, man. A ton of rabbits. A lot of ducks throughout the migration, and in falconry you actually get to hunt the reverse migration in March.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, it's really cool. You know, those ducks that you might not get to see in full plumage.
Yeah.
Like if you're a gun hunter, you know, like I always have been. You how often you get to take a full plumage blue-winged teal? You know, never.
That's crazy.
So, you know, you get to hunt them in March. You know, those blue-winged teal are just beautiful when they come out. But then it's a catch-22 because your falcon comes down and pounds them and just starts ripping them
They're
up.
ripping them up.
It's
Yeah.
not that pretty. But
Yeah.
no, it is really cool. And like a lot of times in our reverse migration here, you can look at a pond and it'll have 8 different duck species on it. It's so much fun.
Yeah. When the birds catch a duck, are they hitting them on the water or are they hitting them mid-flight?
No, they're hitting a mid-flight ideally. Yeah, so like I said, like with a falcon, they're coming down, you know, 100, 120 miles an hour. Ideally, it'd be like a deer peregrine hybrid, or, you know, whatever falcon of choice you're flying. You know, some guys fly prairie falcons, some guys fly whatever. You know, it's so cool because, you know, with modern technology, they have these things that are called Marshall transmitters. It's basically like a Garmin 300i for your falcon. You know, you can visually, like, it's on, like my sponsor has his on an iPad. You can watch the whole flight in like 3D, watch you know, just a tracer come up through on a like on basically like on onX Maps, and you get to watch it, like the way the bird flew, how fast they went, what angle. It's just crazy.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
It's so wild, man. Technology's crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm over here with my red tail, and I just have a set of bells on her ankles. That's my technique for finding her. But mine bird's not going real far, so that's why it works.
Yeah, man, I didn't know that they had that technology to be. Does it just attach like to their neck, or like where on their foot or something?
Some guys do it different. I think Tyler had his bird. It goes on his. I think he had it on his leg. Most guys, you know, different birds are different. How people train are different. A a lot of guys have a little backpack system. I don't really know how it works. I think it's just rigged up to go on the center of their back is basically how
Yeah.
it clips
Okay.
into a little clip, and
Yep.
it's super cool. It looks like they're carrying a little
Yeah.
transmitter. I don't know, half the size of a pinhead. It's not very big.
Yeah. So it doesn't weigh him down or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you think so obviously you hunted with guns for so
Oh, absolutely.
long, and
Absolutely.
you've transitioned to falconry / guns. Do you see yourself this coming season? Well, I should say once, I guess obviously when you bird hunt, you're probably not you're gonna carry a gun and not your hawk, but down the road, like if you got a goshawk or something, do you think you would gun hunt as much, or do you think you'd just stick mainly to falconry?
No, I love wing shooting, so it would absolutely be both. And the cool thing about falconry is if you're going to go hit a few patches with your dogs and your shotgun, at the crack ass of dawn, and get out there and stomp some Milo stubbler or a cattail draw or whatever, and shoot some roosters. Ideally, maybe I could go get out on some ducks with my goshawk, or now I can go fly some bunnies with my red tail in the evenings, or I can just make a full day out of everything. If I go ahead and limit out, let's say I shoot a limit of roosters, I can go pick up the hawk and go chase some bunnies. It's always going to be it's always going to be both for me.
Yeah.
There's not much I don't like to hunt. So,
Yeah.
I do a ton of coyote calling, love hunting turkeys, love wing shooting. I deer hunt a little.
Yeah.
Just if beef was cheaper, I'd probably just eat beef instead of eating deer.
Yeah, no kidding. Nothing's cheap right now.
No kidding, man.
What's been the most rewarding part? We'll start with that. Since you've not just since you've been in falconry, but since you've had your own falcon or your own hawk, what's been the biggest reward so far?
So outside of the first catch was super cool. The first catch off the point was super cool. But honestly, just the first free flight after taking that time and training and dedicating so much time to the craft, and just whenever you kind of unclip that bird, their first flight ever off your wrist, and they actually end up following you and not just flying off to the Never Land, that was like a freaking drug, man. I was like, this is so awesome,
Yeah.
We, obviously the first flight, we didn't end up catching anything. We was just kind of a tour. I own 20 acres right here on the edge of town, which has a bunch of bunnies, and we there was a little snow on the ground, and just seeing what the way the bird moved through the trees, it was just awe inspiring. It was so much fun. Oh man, I can't even put words to it. That sounds a little silly maybe, but until you experience it, it's like seeing your dog go on point on their first wild bird.
And just the amount of time that you put into it, and I'm sure you did. Obviously you had an awesome situation where you kind of grew up a little bit around it, with those guys and whatnot. But I can't imagine the amount of work that it takes to even get to a point where you think you can even take on a red-tailed hawk. What did you have to do to set up your house, to set up your schedule? What does that all look like?
So it really worked out really well for me. Most of the time, I can't speak for everybody, but my sponsor was just incredibly generous. He should be. I've been taking him hunting for years.
Yeah, exactly. You got him on chickens.
He was incredibly generous, and so were a lot of other falconers. Just even if it wasn't, them helping me out with equipment, it was their time. I can't thank them enough. All of them. Because there's quite a few. But it kind of came pretty easy for me because I had a chicken coop I converted on my place that was 2 eggs. So you kind of got to have, it's like an 8x8 structure for your mews. And then basically all I really had to do, I had to build a little outside pen, which was super easy. It actually took more time than doing anything else, but anyway, and all I had to do was install some slats in a window instead of chicken wire. The biggest no-no is just having chicken wire. So yeah, no, it came super easy.
Yeah. Why don't you have chicken wire? What's behind that?
If they fly up against it, they kind of jam their feathers in it and they break easy. what I have is just like, I have a buddy that's an electrician that got me a bunch of 1-inch electrical conduit,
Oh,
like
nice.
the aluminum conduit or whatever. And, I just drilled some holes in some 2x4s and ran those through there and stuck them up in the window of that chicken coop. Like I said, it was, it was
Yeah.
like a 45-minute project, and I was set. And then the game warden comes over and inspects your mews, inspects your equipment, make sure you have food for your bird. And they're like, okay, you're good
Yep.
to go. Go trap your bird.
Nice. Do you have to register your bird with the state or anything each year, or how's that look?
I'm not sure about each year, I think you got to let them know when you let it go.
Okay.
And I should probably know all that by heart, but I don't.
Yeah,
but
you can always look
but
it
no,
up.
I got about as much paperwork on that hawk as I do my pickup. So.
Really?
Oh yeah.
So what do you just have to turn it into the DNR when you catch it, or is it how?
So I think
what's
you just
that
got to
look
let
like?
them know. Like in Kansas, I didn't have to have a trapping permit for my red tail. They just had to know I was doing it. The only thing you have to have a trapping permit in Kansas for, I think, is a peregrine falcon.
Okay.
So, and that's just, because they're heavily mandated. So,
yeah, for sure. What's been probably the biggest struggle that you've had to take on with falconry?
it was just kind of there in the beginning, really. Was the biggest struggle for me is just understanding the weight management and just the husbandry with the bird. And, like I said, the social cues and stuff, and just understanding all that. A book can only teach you so much. Having an experienced falconer there to help you a lot is the best thing you can have, or have a good friend on the phone that's a falconer. That was the biggest struggle for me. Honestly, once we got out and got hunting and started catching game, it was a freaking breeze. We had a ton of wind this spring, so I was limited on the days I could actually hunt. Once I got hunting and kind of got in the groove of it and got the dog, my first couple hunts, my first couple rabbit catches, I didn't actually have a dog. It's just my cousin's really enthralled with it. He was running around with me, and we'd flushed a few bunnies and stuff like that, caught a couple, and then I'm like, you know what? I got a pen full of these German dogs. I think I'm going to cut one loose and just see what happens. I started working with the bird and working with the dog. I'm like, yeah, this is going to work. No problem. No factor. Went out and stomped a little patch of brush, and dog went on point. Out came a bunny. Down came the bird. And that was all. That was the end of it. And then after that, I think I went. I caught 14 rabbits in 5 weeks of hunting, and I think I either went 8 in a row or 9 in a row. And the only reason my streak really ended, I had a really good friend from out of town that wanted to see it just super bad. And he's a Border Patrol guy down in South Texas. And he was so excited to see it. And it was a real windy day. And my bird ended up missing twice. And we're hunting like a 30-mile. If it would have just been me, I would have set it out, and just went the next day. But he wanted to see it super bad. So I tried to show him, kind of put it into my streak. So, but it was still good. Either way, it taught me a lesson,
Yep, for sure. What
should have just let him hold it for a picture.
yeah, no kidding, dude. That'd be awesome. Just having one of those birds. I mean, it's pretty badass.
Man, it's a front row seat to National Geographic, to Nature's Medal on Instagram as well.
Well, I mean, that's as real as it gets, right? Predator versus prey, right there. I mean, 100%. You can't get any closer than that unless you're the one being ate by the predator.
I don't want that front row ticket.
No. Do you so some dogs can kind of become possessive of birds, when they go to retrieve, or possessive of like a bone or something. Do hawks have that at all? Like when they run up and they catch one and you go up to grab it from them, is there something that you have to do to like help make sure they don't like try to get you or anything, or talon you or something?
Okay. So what, let's say my bird has a rabbit down. I would go up there gentle and slow. You don't run up on them. The first few times I tethered my dog up, 15 feet away, and just so there wasn't an accident, my dog already knew he didn't need to be up there, but still, I just didn't want a mishap. Cause it'd be easy for a dog to lose an eye or something, it's better that way. So, but once we were good to go, we were good to go, but anyway, no, like you go up on your bird, I get down on their level kind of, and you do what's called a trade-off. So, my first couple of bunnies I caught, I let my bird fill. which is I just let her eat about as much as she wanted to of the first couple of bunnies, just so she knew she was doing a good thing.
Yeah.
But the trouble with that is once they eat a ton, they're not going to want to hunt the next day. Their bellies are full. They're going to, they're just going to hang out. If you let them go up in a tree, they might just hang out and just look down at you. And that's about all they're going to do. They're not going to fly around and want to hunt for you because they say, hey, I'm enjoying this nice sunshine and nobody can bother me up here. But when they're ready to hunt, that's what you want. So that kind of comes into that weight management thing I was talking about. So what you do, like, let's say I catch a bunny and I really want to hunt the next day. I'm going to go up there with a piece of rabbit meat, just whatever I got, just something with a little bit of meat and a little bit of fur for them to look at. And ideally I would take my gloved hand with my falcon. For those that can see, it's basically a fancy welding glove is all it is, just double stitch leather, pretty tough gloves so those talons don't penetrate. Yeah. And I would go up there with a piece of meat on my glove and I'd put my ungloved hand kind of over the bunny's head. This is just my way of doing it. Everybody has their own. I would offer that piece of meat up on the, something with a little meat, little hair, basically fluff. And I would offer it up to that bird. And ideally they're just going to step right up on your glove. You sneak the rabbit that they just caught out into your vest. And you could I never got to the point where I was really ready to chase a second rabbit for the day. I would catch one, let my bird fill a little bit, pluck a little hair off the rabbit, trade him off, and I would go ahead and put my bird up and go back to the house. So this year I'm going to try to double up, maybe even triple up a little bit. My goal's, trying to get them triple digits, and I'm going to hit it really hard this season and, try to get as many bunnies as I can caught this year. But no, ideally you just work that trade off and you get to slip that bunny into your bird vest and go on about your business.
Yeah. Do you hunt back-to-back days ever with them?
As much as I can, yeah. Yeah,
Good.
so,
Okay.
The determining factor for me was really just the wind. Like I said, we had one of the windiest years on record. We were battling on 30-mile-an-hour winds, and, it's hard to hunt. I was going out after work that last 30, 45 minutes of daylight and catching bunnies. I'm really fortunate to have really good rabbit hawk and know people and stuff like that have some lots on the edge of town, stuff like that. You always will see bunnies at Corps Engineers ground, whatever it may be. That was just real close to the house that I could run out that last little bit of daylight, that last 34, 45 minutes, hour of daylight, and go fly my bird and put her on a bunny and be done with it. Get back to the house and eat some dinner,
Yep. Do you weigh your bird daily?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So like I said, with the weight management, that is, for me, that's, and for everybody, that's the most important thing in falconry.
Yep. Do they fluctuate weight pretty easily, like day to day?
Yeah, and it can, a warmer day, they're not going to lose as much weight. Cooler day, they're going to lose more.
Yep.
The more bones, feathers, or fur they eat, and rich meat, like say rabbits super lean, quail super lean. If you're feeding them goose meat, it's super rich. All the that dark red meat that looks like beef. You got to watch when you feed them that because they just won't lose the weight near as fast. That you need to keep them at that hunting weight.
Okay. So let's say you go out, you catch, so you're consistent with your one rabbit, right? And you let them eat a little bit. Then do you let them eat that night? Do you come back, weigh them, and then give them a portion based on their weight, or how does that work to make sure that they're hungry enough to want to hunt the next day to be able to go back-to-back days?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of times, you would come back and feed them up a little bit. And that's the thing, the big, you just don't want to get them too low to where they're, a little lethargic, a little weak. Ideally, if, let's say they're sitting on a dead tree, and they're sitting on a dead branch and 10 feet above them, they can get a better perch. Well, if they can power up to the top of that, just fly straight. If they're flying straight up and down, getting up on branches and stuff like that, they're in really good shape and plenty heavy, and they're ready to hunt. So, like I said, it all boils down to weight management.
Yeah, for sure. Do you, during the off season, are you flying them X amount of miles, or flying them so many times a day or so many minutes a day to keep them in shape, or do you do something to gear up for hunting shape per se?
So in the off season, when they're molting, their feathers are really fragile when they're coming in. A lot of falconers don't really handle their birds at all during the molt.
Okay.
The reason I do is just understanding in the summer how much weight they're going to lose, how much I need to feed them. This is my first year, so I need to handle the bird as much, not as much as I can. I'm maybe pulling her out and weighing her 2 times a week, just kind of
Okay.
fresh with her. You seen her sitting behind me. She was pretty chill. She didn't really like us talking a ton, but no, she, so I try to keep a handle on her. I'm not flying her at all during the summer, but, and until October, I won't be.
Yeah.
So there's not much exercising going on. The big idea is keeping their weight where you want it and making sure they're growing those feathers good and not, getting themselves in any kind of trouble in their mews.
Yeah. How long does that molting process take?
For different birds, it's different. It's a few months long. Right now, it looks like somebody shredded a hawk in my freaking mews right now. She's got feathers everywhere.
Yeah.
But no, ideally, she'll hopefully be done by October, and I can start working with her.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a few month long process.
Yeah. Do you ever plan on having more than one bird at a time, or is that even a thing? I don't know. People do.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Once I become that general class falconer and get out of my apprenticeship, I can have a couple different birds, and ideally, depending on just time load with work and stuff like that, it would be really fun to have essentially a goshawk, for something that I can hunt directly over my dogs and have it. I'm like I said, right off the fist, kind of in your face action. And being that we have a lot of chickens, I secretly want to catch a chicken with a goshawk just to spite some people, because not a lot of people have done it. It's like I said, chickens are the crown jewel, and there's only been I don't even know anybody that has caught a chicken with a goshawk. I'm sure it's been done before, but no, everybody's out catching chickens and ducks and stuff like that around here is flying long wings. So ideally, I'd really like to have a goshawk and a long wing at some point, but I kind of want to master the goshawk thing for a few years before I even dip my toe into the falcon thing, having what you call a long wing. So in falconry, there's 3 main categories of hawks and falcons. There's booteos, which is what my red tail is. It's BUTEO, and that's basically your broad-winged hawks, your red tails, your red shoulders, ferruginous hawks, stuff like that. And then there's short wings, which are the quick flighty birds like Cooper's hawks, goshawks, sharp shins. What Tyler Sladen flies is that goshawk.
Yeah.
Then there's long wings, your peregrines, gyr falcons, prairie falcons, all the above, and all that. So there's so many avenues in falconry you can go down. It's like an unlimited pursuit, man.
Yeah.
That's one of the cool things about it. You can live your whole life and do it, and you can never see all of it.
Yeah, that's crazy. Do you think, or you probably know, is the training between the 3 different categories of hawks different? Is the setup different, or is a lot of it similar, just different birds?
Your training of a long wing is going to be quite a bit different, and I can't really speak to the goshawks and stuff like that because I've never really got to be around one. I actually stayed at Tyler's house and we were going to go hunt the next day, but I couldn't swing it with work and stuff like that. I went down to Arizona and quail hunt and crashed at his house in Albuquerque on the way back. And we were going to go try to chase scale quail with his hawk, but I couldn't swing and I already pushed my luck getting days off of work out there. So I had to get back. Unfortunately, so I haven't even got to see that whole part of falconry. And that's why I'm so enthralled with it. It's because I haven't got to see it.
Yeah.
But with the long wings, a lot of guys kite train, and it's a lot different from what I'm doing. You would, like, if you've seen what like how they sailfish with big kites, if you know what I'm talking about, off boats and stuff like that. What my sponsor does is a actual sailfish kite. He has a big candy van and has a big old kite rig that he opens a sliding door and this kite comes out and you throw it up in the air, how many ever 100 feet, and your falcon spirals up to there. And I haven't dove into it. I'm speaking out of turn a little bit, but the idea is there's a piece of food up there and they're going there and they're like, hey, this is where the good things happen at. This is where I want to be. And then eventually you're putting them up there and then you're flushing game for them. And they, it's kind of a automatic switch.
Man, that'd be crazy to see. Those birds would be. And
a lot of guys are using drones for that now because it's way easier. Yeah. But when it's ripping wind, I don't know shit about drones, but I assume you probably got to go to the kite.
Yeah, that would probably make sense. I don't know how you fly. I don't know how much wind a drone can handle. Do you so the where do you have to go to get? Do goshawks come through Kansas? I don't even know.
No, so where a lot of guys go to catch them is like mountain states. My buddy Casey, he pulled one from a nest in Maine. Tyler pulled his from a nest in New Mexico. A lot of guys go to like Wyoming. It's kind of a hotbed for it, I think. They're everywhere. You know, we don't really get too many of them through here. The sippers that we get, which is that kind of class of hawks, we get Cooper's hawks. They're everywhere here. You know, I see them pretty much every day around my house and stuff like that. So we're a little light on the goshawks, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But ideally, I'd like to go to a mountain state and pull one from a nest. It would be so cool.
That would be pretty awesome. What draws you to the goshawk compared to the, I can't remember the name that you just said, that other hawk that you have, Cooper's hawk?
Oh, the Cooper's hawks. So goshawks are a little more biddable, a little more trainable. Cooper's hawks and falconry, they just have a horrible reputation for being just real bitter hawks, you know, hard to handle. And I got a book by a guy named Mike McDermott, and you know, all the really good falconers write books about it. And this dude is like, oh my gosh, he's like the Michael Jordan of falconry. So he has a book about, it's all about accipiters. And you know, Cooper's hawks are like the best bird there is when they're done right. And I'm speaking out of turn a little bit because I've never been around one. This is just what I'm reading and what a lot of folks are telling me that I'm going off of here. And like I said, any falconers that are listening, this is my first year, so I'm speaking out of turn a little bit. But anyway, the goshawks are a little more biddable. They're very common in falconry, whereas Cooper's hawks aren't because they aren't so biddable. But like the good ones, when the right person has them in their hands, they are just absolute machines, catching a couple hundred head a game in a season type thing.
Man, that's crazy.
They're absolute machines.
Yeah. That would be, do a lot of guys or that you've talked to, do they catch multiple species in a day? Like, I mean, can these goshawks go after ducks and pheasants?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so back in Europe in the old days, they used to call them innkeepers birds because, you know, somebody that had a hotel could feed a host of guests with a goshawk because they could go out, a couple ducks, catch a pheasant, catch a rabbit. And that's like, if it, you know, anybody who follows Tyler probably sees it. You know, he'll go catch 3 quail and a cottontail. You know, it's very, very common to catch different species in a day, and that could be done with a host of birds. You know, guys that fly Harris hawks can catch ducks and bunnies and stuff like that. And falcons are kind of, or at least the ones I've been around, are kind of like one shot and you're done kind of in the day, maybe 2. You know, you're really only getting 1 or 2 flights in a day with a falcon, whereas a goshawk, you can freaking hunt all day. Or a red tail even, you know, if they're, and it's all in the owner, you know, who has the bird and how they're handling it. The best falconers have the best results. A lot of these birds are a mirror, and, you know, if you put the time in, it reflects very well.
Yeah, for sure. What's the size difference between the goshawk and your red tail?
So
when I see Sladen's pictures, like obviously he must be taking them close up because that hawk looks pretty good size. But from what I remember, I think it was smaller than the red tail, isn't it?
Yeah, his male is quite a bit smaller. I think the female goshawk. So birds of prey, it's like they have sexual dimorphism, which is the males are always bigger than the females. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. Females are always bigger than the males. Yeah, old fashioned mix up there. Yeah. But no, so I don't know. My bird's quite a bit larger than Sladen's bird, you know, by a long shot. So a female goshawk would be fairly comparable, you know, within maybe, I'm not sure. I haven't been around. Like I said, I haven't got to really see the goshawk thing too much. And, but I mean, they're fairly comparable in size and stuff like that. Yeah.
What's your future look like in falconry? I think we've covered some of it, but what are some of your goals as someone that's coming in new, just getting your first year under you, having these aspirations? What are some of your goals as a falconer, and what do you want to kind of develop into?
So essentially what I want to do, I just want to become a specialist and just really be able to understand my bird and just understand how to put them on. And So whenever you're hunting, you call it a slip in falconry. I want to be
Okay.
able to find the right slip for my bird that's safe for my bird, and they're going to have a lot of game in front of them. Like I said, I want to chase those triple digits really hard this year and catch a bunch of bunnies and some squirrels and stuff like that, and just really become, just really efficient with it, understand how my bird works, and then move into essentially I want to move into having a goshawk and catching pheasants right over my dogs off a point. We don't have a ton of pheasants right around me, but we got a lot of bobwhites and a lot of chickens. I'd love to try the chicken thing. Like I said, I'm probably going to fail before I ever catch one. Hopefully it's by accident. I don't care if it's by accident.
Yeah, as long as you catch
get
one,
chicken,
right?
So yeah, no, and what's so much fun about it is it just extends your season.
Yeah.
Usually after January 31st, my season's over. The only thing I could do is maybe go to Arizona or something like that, extend my season for, 2 more weeks. This extends my season. I get to work my dogs for, until March 31st. It's just
That's
so much
crazy.
fun to you get a hunt. It's such a just open season, so long. And, it's just so much fun, man. I was a pretty avid predator caller, before the falconry thing. After I got my bird going, I was catching bunnies. It was pretty hard to dust off the coyote rifle.
Oh, I bet.
I love that stuff, but man, it was my
Especially
223
being your first year.
right now.
Yeah, that would be tough having success for your first year and having to hang it up, to go chase anything else, man. That would be
Yeah. But it comes back to that thing like I was talking about earlier, where I could, go chase a limit of roosters and then put the dogs up, or
Yep.
put the shotgun up and go chase them with the hawk. It could be the same with coyotes, and that's kind of what I did. I would go find a little homestead or something after I'd make 2 or 3 stands in the morning, and and then go get the bird out and go chase some bunnies around a little homestead or a little wood block or something.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you've told us some awesome stories so far, but what's got to be one that you haven't said, one of your top stories, whether introducing to falconry, whether not falconry, hunting, doesn't have to be falconry. What's one of your favorite hunting stories?
Oh man, favorite hunting stories. Oh, we'll go into favorite falconry story, then we'll do favorite hunting story. I got too many stories, man. Probably my favorite falconry little story is I was hunting right next to a boat, kind of like a boat dock out here at our lake, and Corps Engineers Lake out here, and my dog just locks up, just dead solid on point. I'm like, holy cow, he's pointing like he was pointing a rooster or something, just locked up, just tighter than all be out. And my bird's, I don't know, just real high in a cottonwood, probably 50, 60 feet up. And I see the bird come out of the tree, the dog's on point, and my bird pitches straight up in the air and flies about 20 feet straight up, and then just torpedoes straight down in front of the dog and just pounds a bunny into the ground.
Oh.
And it was just the coolest thing, I would have paid so much money to have that on video. It was what you strive for in falconry, between the bird work and the dog work, and everything worked out. And it was just, oh man, that was just what you live for,
Yeah.
when you're pouring your heart and soul into this.
Man, that would have been sick to see.
Yeah, it was cool, man. It was something. My jaw was on the ground the entire time,
Yeah.
But no, other favorite hunting story, I don't know. Probably my triple. I shot. It's kind of a triple limit of all the upland birds in Kansas. Shot a limit of quail, pheasants, and chickens in one day. It was just surreal. It was something else. Just the pinnacle. We actually ended up going to meet 2 of my really good buddies. Up, I don't know, 2 hours from me, and he goes, I got some pheasants, you need to come up. He kept telling me, and this is like the second week of season. I wanted to go just load up and haul out west and just chase roosters, and he kept ringing my bell and sending me Snapchats of pheasants, and I was like, you know what, I'll just run up and hunt with my good buddy Jason. I run up there, and him and the good friend that was with us, he'd never really upland hunted before, so he had a little trouble shooting that day, but it's still a lot of fun. Man, we couldn't get out of birds. It was just one of those days. And I ended up going ahead, probably by noon or so, I ended up, taking down my quail limit, and I kind of hung my shotgun up as far as the quail go. We ended up finishing our pheasant limit around 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And, she had our 3-man pheasant. I think we had, our quail limit's 8 birds, and our pheasant limit's 4. So
Oh, wow.
we were taking pictures, we had 14, 15 quail, so it was a big eye opener to my old lady. She's pretty much a vegetarian when I met her, and she was a pretty big eye opener to her. She was having a blast. She wasn't shooting, just walking along.
Yeah.
And so it's fun to share that experience with her. And we get our pictures taken, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to run to the chicken field. Neither of those guys wanted to go. So, it's 2 hours away for them. So I just hauled the mail to chicken field that I know. And, it's not a real big deal anymore to pass shoot chickens coming into grain, but that's kind of where I cut my teeth in wing shooting growing up on my family's ranch, and around that area, there was a ton of chickens then. Now, not so much. So, that's kind of where I cut my teeth. So it's something I really love. I love hunting them over pointing dogs the most, but man, pass shooting them still does a lot for me. And I keep one of my short hairs, healed right next to me whenever I'm pass shooting them coming into grain, and, still get to have a little bit of dog work there. So it's a lot of fun. And, I hauled the mail back home and took down 2 chickens, and it was super cool the way it happened. I actually, I had a group of about 35 chickens coming into the grain, and set up right where they were the night before when I watched them, and sit right there, shot 2. One of them kind of, I don't know, it was a long fall for the chicken, and went down behind some trees on the other side of a creek, and set my dog on her. Went on like a 250 or 300 yard blind retrieve, and brings me a chicken back. I couldn't believe it.
That's
for a dog
crazy.
that's never really been trained to do that. She took right to it, but she's my baby. She's my money dog. Her name's Rye, so she's my favorite.
That's awesome. How many dogs you have?
So I got 4 now. I just picked up a puppy this season that I'm so excited about. I have 3 older dogs that are 2 of them are 8, one of them's 5. Just big old meat dog short hairs. They're nothing special, but they get the job done for me. They've had a lot of bird contacts, so they know the game. I've chased birds all over with them. Was really happy how they did in Arizona down there. My gosh, I was so scared my dogs weren't going to perform when they went to a different place, and I was really happy they did.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
But no, I just picked up a nice little pup from a guy named Kyle Larson here in Kansas, and Hunt 'em Up Kennels is the name and of his kennel, and I just couldn't be happier with it. Tickled pink with her, man. She's a solid liver, short hair, and
Nice.
Good head on her. She's a good looking little dog.
Yeah, that'll be fun. First season with her, second season in falconry coming up.
That's exactly right.
And you can't beat it. That's gonna be awesome.
I think she's 18 weeks old now. She's gonna see a couple few limits of chickens die in September, I hope. So
Yeah.
I'm stoked, man.
Yeah, you cannot beat that. Puppy stage can be frustrating, but dang, it's so much fun bringing out a new pup
so
to
rewarding.
the field.
So rewarding.
Yeah, you're gonna have some good years ahead of you getting into the falconry game and dogs and all that. That's awesome. So, well, Jake, we appreciate you coming on, talking about falconry, talking about your dogs, chickens, birds. And it was a great time. This podcast flew by.
Yeah, it really did. I didn't even realize it was this long.
Yeah. So we appreciate you coming on. We might have to bring you on again, sometime mid-season or something. Just talk about how your season's going compared to your first season and whatnot. So be looking for me to reach back out to you.
Yeah, man. Thanks very much, man. This is my first podcast. I had so much fun.
Yeah, dude, it was a good one. Learned a lot, and falconry is just a cool sport, and I'm glad it's not a art that's being lost. It seems like some more people are getting into it and keeping it alive, which is good.
Exactly, yeah, it really is, man. It's got the largest demographic of women of any hunting sport. So
yeah, that's crazy.
It's super cool. And honestly, the women falconers, they're not to be messed with, man. They're killing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. We had one on. She's from out east somewhere. I can't remember exactly where. But yeah, it'd be cool to see. I want to see it someday, and I don't know if I'd get into it or not, but I definitely want to go on a hunt with it for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's something you can enjoy with not having anything invested in it, just going. It's so much fun just to watch. So that's always a fun. And the fun thing is, you can take anybody. You know, and the falconers I know are super generous with spots and stuff like that. And I tell you, nobody's fighting you in Kansas over rabbit spots. Pheasant spots, yeah. Rabbit spots, not so much.
Yeah,
that's the fun thing about it.
Yeah, get on those cottontails, and they're good eating. I love
Oh
rabbit.
my gosh, I love them. I get the back legs are for me, the rest for the hawk.
Yeah, yep. That's some good meat right there.
That's right. That's right.
So awesome.
Heck
Well,
yeah,
Jake,
dude. Thanks so much for having me on, dude. I'd love to come back on. I had a ton of fun.
yeah, for sure. We'll bring you back on sometime mid-season and talk about how season.
Yeah, sounds good, dude.
Awesome. We'll talk to you later.
All right, thanks. Bye.